"You appear fatigued, sir," remarked the little girl on board. The CEO had not anticipated that she would transform his life forever. Nathan Hale smoothed the cuff of his navy wool overcoat as he boarded the crowded commercial flight from Seattle to Boston. It was a red-eye, and Nathan despised red eyes. First class was booked, which left him much to his unobtrusive irritation, with a seat in economy. Row 18C window. He passed by a couple fighting over overhead bin space and slid into his seat, exhaling slowly as he settled into the upholstery. The buzz of engines warming up for takeoff filled the cabin, equaling the static in his brain. After a grueling week of boardroom warfare and press interviews, Nathan was the epitome of high-powered CEO. Tailored slacks, sleek leather boots, a watch that was worth more than some rent payments, but his face betrayed him. The creases around his eyes, the clench in his jaw, the slight slump of his shoulders. He was a man worn thin. He took out a folded newspaper from the seat cushion, but his eyes raked over the page without reading a word. His thoughts were already shutting down. Then there was the shuffle of little feet. A toddler, not more than 3, in a pink dress and a green turtle-shaped backpack stood by his side, her eyes stretched wide with awe. "That's our seat, Mommy. See, it has a window." She scrambled into the middle seat with the kind of enthusiasm only a child would have for flying, her shoes tapping lightly against the seat in front of her. Nathan tried a courteous smile and moved towards the window, hoping she would subside. Then the voice, gentle, inquiring. "You are quite exhausted, sir." Nathan shifted a little. The girl was staring up at him with large, genuine eyes, her voice not scornful, simply worried. He attempted to clear his throat. "I'm fine," he said brusquely. She wasn't taken in, but she didn't say anything else, simply smiled weakly and made herself comfortable, pumping her legs as she rooted through her backpack. To his surprise, she didn't fidget or complain. She took in the sights around her in quiet wonder, hands gripping the straps of her bag, which was a little too large for her compact body. Nathan looked at her once more. She possessed soft blonde curls that bounced as she walked, and cheeks full from youth. Her dress was wrinkled from travel, but spotless. A little stuffed bunny poked out of her backpack's zipper. Her mother had already dozed off in the aisle seat, side of the head tipped back, wavy blonde hair sliding across the shoulder. Soft but fatigued were her features. She looked youthful, too youthful for the fatigue in her face. Her arms crossed over her purse, inhaling deeply with the type of sleep induced by pure exhaustion. The girl gazed at her mother, then back at Nathan. She extended something, half a chocolate chip cookie covered in a napkin. "For you," she said quietly. He blinked. "No, thank you," he said. Her brow furrowed faintly. "You may have it. I have more." Nathan hesitated. Something in her frank, untroubled look compelled it difficult to say no. He grabbed the cookie. "Thank you," he murmured. She smiled as if that one word brightened her day. He bit in. Sweet, crumbly. The plane started to taxi. Lights went down. Nathan settled back, eyes closed. The girl shifted, leant her head against the armrest, and clutched her stuffed bunny. Her mother slept on, chest rising and dropping in a smooth rhythm. Nathan opened his eyes again, looking at the little figure next to him. A strange warmth filled his chest, new, but not unpleasant. For the first time in a very long time, someone had looked at him and understood. Not the suit, not the company, just a wary man. And that person was a little girl with a green backpack. The lights in the cabin had dimmed as the flight flew over the clouds. Nathan sat motionless, shoulder a bit tight under the burden of the sleeping child. Sophie's little head had nestled onto his upper arm. After she passed him that half cookie, he hadn't had the heart to move. Outside, the world had disappeared into darkness, punctured only by scattered lights shining like faraway memories. Next to him, the woman on the aisle seat stirred, her head slowly lifted. She blinked, confused until she saw that her daughter was no longer beside her. "Sophie," she said, "Oop right now," voice hushed but sharp with concern. Nathan motioned for quiet, then nodded to the girl sleeping against him. "She's fine," he said softly. "She fell asleep a little while back." The woman Elena let out a deep breath. Her shoulders slumped. A hand rose to her chest, then came around to rest on her daughter's back just in case. "I'm so sorry," she spoke, her voice rough. I didn't mean to fall asleep. I must have been more exhausted than I realized. Nathan shook his head. No damage done. She brushed back some ruffled blonde hair and presented him with a concerned smile. Gentle, slightly embarrassed. I just did 3 overnight shifts, came off work at 5 this morning, arrived here straight at the airport. Thought I'd be able to stay awake. He looked at her. Honestly looked young but tired. Eyes creased from sleepless nights, pale circles under them, but her voice was warm, and the way she stroked Sophie's back spoke volumes. You, Rhea healthcare worker, he asked. Yeah, nurse assistant technically, temporary gig. He nodded, glancing down at Sophie, who stirred slightly in her sleep, hint of a smile on her lips. She's surprisingly good company, he whispered. Alina laughed. That's Sophie. She believes strangers are just friends we haven't met yet. Nathan smiled, transitory but genuine. I caught on. They sat silently, the white hum of the cabin around them. The air between them seemed surprisingly secure. Not intimate, merely human. She's very considerate, he said. Gave me half a cookie earlier. Elena smiled, a spark of pride. She does that when she thinks someone needs cheering up. She's perceptive. Nathan caught himself looking at the crumbs still in his hand. Then at Sophie. She was correct. Elena leaned her head like he was attempting to interpret his tone, but remained silent. I'm Elena, by the way, she said, retucking Sophie's blanket. Nathan, she smiled. Thanks for sitting with her. Not everyone's tolerant of children. She's simpler to get along with than most adults I know, he replied, the edges of his mouth curving up. Elena's face relaxed. She glanced at Sophie, then back at Nathan. She sees people, even better than grown-ups do. Nathan glanced out the window. Perhaps that's because she hasn't figured out yet how to look away. There was silence between them, not awkward, merely contemplative. Outside, the plane flew over a lake of clouds, the sky enormous and dark. Nathan closed his eyes, allowing the drone of the engines to drown out his thoughts. But the sight of that little hand, holding out half a cookie, wouldn't depart. By the time the plane touched down at Boston, the moment was lost. Nathan disembarked, briefcase held firm, purposeful gait heading back. No words were exchanged. Only a look over his shoulder at the exhausted woman and the sleeping child wearing a green backpack. But as terminal lights flashed above, and the crowd bore him away, Nathan couldn't help but feel the silent sense of something inside had switched. It wasn't clear to him, only that it might have been a long time since he'd ever experienced it. Boston welcomed him with drizzle and overcast sky. A black car was parked at the curb. The driver stood beneath an umbrella, but Nathan hardly felt the cold. His thoughts were elsewhere, still somewhere at 35,000 ft. The silent kindness of the child of a stranger would not have lingered with him, and yet it had. At home, he poured himself one drink like he always did, and stood near the tall window of his penthouse. The city sparkled below, but none of it touched him. It never had. His gaze fell to a photo frame on a low bookshelf. Dust coated the edges. He hadn't handled it in years. His wife, Emily, his closest friend, the one who loved him before the success, before the suits. They had been married 10 months before the rainy night, the red light, and the phone call that broke it all. He had her buried in the fall. The leaves were red that day. She would have enjoyed it. Life had been efficient since then. Meetings, mergers, growth, no distractions, just responsibility. Especially now that his mother's health was waning. Donor lists, blood types, and risk dominated every discussion. He went by, signed papers, questioned, then returned to work. It was the way he coped with structured emptiness. But for the first time in 5 years, something had disrupted the rhythm. And it had begun with a girl with a pink dress and green backpack. The smell of antiseptic greeted Nathan the moment he entered through the sliding glass doors of the hospital, cold, clean, clinical, just as every visit before had been. He glided past the reception desk with a silent nod and headed up to the 6th floor, where his mother was in for yet another series of tests. The hepatology wing was hushed, the sort of quiet heavy with whispering monitors and wary footfalls. Nathan did not enjoy hospitals. They were places of endings, of waiting, of powerlessness. He shoved his hands into the pockets of his coat as he turned a corridor toward the nurse's station. He had stopped by to inquire about donor registration information, but as he walked down the corridor, a sound he recognized halted him. "All right, Mr. Donovan, slow and steady. We have all the time in the world." Nathan looked in the direction of the sound. A young woman in scrubs, light blue top, white coat loosely knotted, was assisting an old man with a walker. She walked alongside him, voice steady and patient. It took him half a second to notice her. The wavy blonde hair, the calm strength in her voice, the eyes warm but wary. "Elena." He froze without intending to. She didn't catch sight of him at first. Her attention was on the older man, supporting his grip, readjusting his oxygen tube. But then Sophie came around the corner, waddling toward them with the unmistakable joy of a child who saw someone important. "Uncle Airplane," she squealed. Nathan blinked. Sophie dashed directly to him and encircled his legs with surprising strength. Her small pink shoes squeaked against the hospital floor. Nathan bent a little, torn between amusement and skepticism. "Hey there," he said, attempting a smile. Elena spun at the noise, her eyes widening. She stopped for an instant, between shock and humiliation. "You," she whispered, then regained herself. Nathan straightened, nodding politely. "Elena, I didn't know you were here," she said, sweeping a lock of hair behind her ear, looking flustered. "Are you visiting someone?" "My mother," he said. "She's being tested for a transplant. I'm here several times a week." Elena nodded. "I understand." They stood in uncomfortable silence before she waved toward the elderly man. "I should get Mr. Donovan back to his room," she said quietly. Nathan moved to the side. Naturally, but Sophie wrapped herself around his leg once more. "Wet mommy, can he come too?" Elena exhaled softly. "Honey, he's working. It's okay," Nathan said, surprising himself. He went with them as Elena coaxed Mr. Donovan back into bed. She was kind but methodical, and Nathan watched her with subdued interest. Once the patient was settling, she faced him and Sophie, who was sitting in a visitor chair, playing with the stethoscope hanging from her mother's pocket. "You work here?" he questioned. Elena nodded. "Just night shifts, mostly helping out. Occasionally mornings if someone doesn't show up for work." "You're not a registered nurse?" Her lips pressed together. "Not technically. I was in med school, Harvard." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "That's impressive." She shrugged dismissively. "Was I dropped out in my second year?" Things got complicated. His eyes darted to Sophie. Elena glanced at him and nodded. "Yeah," she said. Her father hadn't been in the plan. Neither had being a single parent to a kid, working 2 jobs, or being able to barely make ends meet. She didn't sound bitter so much as tired, honest. Nathan's voice gentled. "That's a lot. It is what it is," she said. "I'm not ashamed. But this isn't where I thought I'd be." He stared at her. No drama, no pretending, just quiet strength undergoing fatigue. Then she spoke almost quietly. "This is just temporary," she said softly. "I used to dream of being a surgeon." Her gaze flicked up to his, and for an instant, Nathan had no idea what to say. He only knew he knew. Dreams left behind. Plans rewritten by loss. He saw her in a new light, not only as Sophie's mother, but as one who had borne shattered dreams with dignity, one who continued on, and something changed within him once more. Perhaps fate was not accompanied by grand proclamations. Perhaps it simply walked quietly by your side in scrubs and sneakers and grasped a little girl's hand. The days that passed after their surprise reunion were spent in quiet cadences. Nathan found himself going to the hospital more frequently, not only for news of his mother's condition, but because something about that corridor, that moment stuck with him. Elena never requested anything. She navigated her shifts with fixed dedication to the patients, to Sophie, to keeping everything from unraveling. But Nathan caught glimpses. The medical texts she pored over during her breaks were outdated and frayed. The scribbled on napkins and pieces of paper. The way her hands shook when she did not think anyone saw her. One afternoon after a board meeting, Nathan left a small bag at the nurse's station. In it were 2 brand new anatomy reference texts from his college days, highlighted, bookmarked like new. No note, no signature. The next morning, she saw him standing outside the coffee stand in the lobby. "You left those, didn't you?" she asked. He shrugged. "They were just sitting on my shelf." She smiled, a quiet, hesitant smile. "Thank you." It became a pattern. Nathan introduced her to a retired Harvard professor who had once given a speech at a fundraiser, set up a short meeting in the guise of an informal visit. No promises, no pressure. Elena didn't object, but she never requested more. At the same time, Sophie became attached to him. She adamantly addressed him as Uncle Star, after Elena read a bedtime story about stars leading individuals home. Every night without exception, Sophie video called him to bid him good night. Nathan, who previously avoided personal calls, now put reminders so he would not forget. He heard her sing off-key cartoon tunes, watched her displayed sketches of Dr. Mommy, and even wore a crown she fashioned from tape and napkins once. Her love disarmed him. It thawed barriers he believed were inviolable. Nevertheless, Nathan remained distant. He never reached for Elena's hand, never stayed too long in her eyes because deep within guilt still resided in his chest like a rock. One night after an evening meeting, Nathan came back to the hospital to drop off insurance forms. The corridors were dark and still. Passing the staff break room on his way out, he stopped. The door was ajar. Inside, Elena sat on a bench in scrubs. Her hair was slightly mussed, shoes kicked off. Sophie was curled up in her lap, asleep, pink dress rumpled, green backpack on the floor. Elena hummed gently, swaying slightly, her arms around her daughter. She was tired but serene in a manner Nathan had never noticed before. He stood there for an extended period of time, unremarked upon. Then softly he moved in. Without comment, he shed his coat and draped it around her shoulders. She stirred, eyes lazily opening. "I didn't mean to wake you," he whispered. She blinked, recognizing him. "I must have dozed off." I was waiting for her to calm down. He knelt next to them. "I'll sit with her. You get some rest." She glanced at him, exhausted, shocked, thankful. Then, too tired to fight, she leaned back and closed her eyes. Nathan sat on the floor next to them, legs crossed, arms on his knees, regarding Sophie's peaceful breathing. A few minutes later, a nurse crossed the doorway and stood there. She was older, gray-haired woman with gentle eyes. She glanced out over the scene. Elena sleeping under Nathan's jacket, Sophie tucked into her arms, and then at Nathan. She smiled, a deep, knowing smile. "No one has ever done that for her," she whispered. Nathan didn't say anything, but something inside of him twisted and softened both at once. And for the first time in years, he let a thought enter, distinct, frightening, and real. Perhaps he no longer wished to be alone. Nathan sat by himself in his office, shadows from late evening stretching across the flooring to ceiling windows. A pile of quarterly reports lay untouched on his desk. The screen of his laptop burned with an open internal HR database, his fingers floating over the keyboard, suspended. He had not intended to access Elena's name, but since their discussion, her quiet whisper, "I once dreamt of being a surgeon," had lingered with him like a burden he couldn't escape. He slowly typed her name, Elena Brooks. A single result showed. An application to Hawthorne Memorial, one of the private hospitals that fell under his company's domain, dated almost 2 years back. It had been rejected, lacking credentials, background discrepancy. Nathan scowled. He browsed through the notes. Left Harvard Med in year 2. Single mother. No references. Potential disciplinary gap. No mention of her clinical grades. No follow-up. No interview. His jaw clenched. He reviewed the approval chain. It had been processed by an entry-level HR manager. A rubber-stamped decision. No nuance. No context. Nathan leaned back, massaging his temple. This was his company, his name on the wall, and a woman like Elena, qualified, capable, trying, had been dismissed with no conversation, not even a word. The guilt slipped in stealthily. The next day, Nathan asked for a review of the hiring procedures for all the medical affiliates. Unobtrusively, quietly, he suggested a new project, a retraining and assistance program for medical applicants who had stopped studying because of life situations. No press releases, no tabloid headlines, just a repair, and it would begin with Elena. He didn't discuss her, but the news caught up with her anyway. She appeared at his office 2 days later, her face ashen, jaw clenched. "You read my file," she accused. No hello, no smile. Nathan rose slowly. "Elena, you thought I wouldn't notice? That I'd just be thankful and let it go," he breathed. "I was trying to set things straight." Her eyes seared. "How? Pulling favors. You think I care about pity? A quick pass because you had a baby?" "No," he replied sternly, "because you're due a shot at justice and you didn't receive one. I don't need rescuing, Nathan." He took to step closer to her, but she stepped back. "I trusted you," she said, a voice shattering. "But this is charity." Nathan saw her head out the door. That evening, the world seemed cold once more until his phone rang at a little past midnight. Sophie's name displayed on the screen. Elena must have called on her daughter's tablet. When he answered, he heard hacking. Then Elena's distressed voice. "Sophie's running hot. 103.7. I can't reduce her fever. I don't know what to do. I'm on my way," Nathan said without hesitation. He was out the door within 5 minutes. When he got to Elena's apartment, she was more upset than he had ever seen her. Sophie lay flushed on the couch, cheeks red, eyes glassy. Nathan took one glance and swept the little girl into his arms. "We're going to the hospital," he said. Now, Elena did not dispute. Several hours later, Sophie lay in a pediatric room, fever finally subsiding after treatment. Elena sat beside her, head in hands, silent. Nathan sat down beside her. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have asked you first. I should have trusted you'd want to fight your way back on your own terms." She nodded slowly, tears welling but not falling. I've spent so long doing everything alone. I didn't know how to let someone help without feeling small." He stared at her then, not the nurse's assistant, not the tired mother, but the woman who still dreamed of being a surgeon. "You're not small, Elena. You're the strongest human being I've ever encountered." She looked over at him, eyes full of something delicate, and for the first time since Emily, Nathan reached across, slowly and deliberately, and took the hand of someone. The hospital room was subdued. The only sounds the soft beeping of machinery and filtered air humming steadily. Nathan sat next to the bed, looking at the weak form under white blankets. His mother, Irene Hale, had always been a force, sharp-witted, fiercely independent, a woman who had raised a son alone and taught him to build empires. But now her skin was pale, her body thinner, her breathing harder with every passing day. The doctor's words from yesterday hung in his head. "We're running out of time. Her liver is breaking down faster than we anticipated. We have to find a match within a few days, or prepare to other results." Nathan had made telephone calls to each of his contacts over the past 2 weeks, tugging at all the strings, but matches were scarce and live donors scarcer still, particularly for her unusual blood type. He was helpless, and Nathan Hale was never helpless. That night, sitting in the hall just outside her room, Elena came over to him quietly. She was still wearing scrubs from her early morning shift, hair loosely tied back, tendrils dropping about her wary face. "Nathan," she whispered. He lifted his eyes. "I ran the test," she told him. He blinked. "What test?" She sat down next to him. "The blood compatibility for your mother." Nathan straightened up. "Elena, I'm compatible." His breath caught. No, absolutely not. I'm healthy. I already talked with the transplant team. I'm a candidate." "No," he shouted louder this time. "You're not doing this. This is not your duty. She requires a donor, Nathan. She requires a donor, not you. You have a daughter. You have a life. This is unsafe." "I understand the risks," she continued quietly. He stood and paced, raking his hand through his hair, frustration constricting his chest. "You don't owe me this. You don't owe her this. This is not a movie, Elena. This is real. This is your body, your health." She stood up, her voice firm. "And your mother is running out of time. I won't let you risk yourself like this. I won't." She moved closer. "You don't get to make that decision for me." Nathan stared at her, then really looked at her. The fire in her eyes, the calm certainty. She wasn't doing this out of guilt or gratitude. She was doing it out of love, compassion. But still, he couldn't bear the thought. "You think I could live with myself if something happened to you?" he said, his voice cracking for the first time in years. "After everything?" Elena's expression softened. She reached out, gently a placing hand on his chest. "She gave you life," she whispered, her tone low, warm. "Let me assist in giving her a second one." Nathan swallowed hard. "You've already given me mine," she continued, tears shining in her eyes. For a moment, neither of them said anything. He closed his eyes, his forehead gently pressing into hers. "You shouldn't have to do this," he breathed. "I want to," she said. That evening, Nathan stood at the bedside of his mother, observing her sleep. He grasped her hand, paper thin and chilled in his own, and prayed for the first time in a while, not only for a miracle, but for the strength to accept one, when it came in the person he would least expect. The morning light filtered gently through the hospital windows, casting warm stripes of golden light across the white-tiled floor. Outside, the city stirred as always. Cars beeping, people hurrying, time slipping away. But within rooms 6 and 14, time had stopped. Nathan stood beside his mother's bed, one hand placed softly on her shoulder. Irene Hale stirred, then blinked away from the light. Her face was pale, but her eyes, once clouded by fatigue and sickness, now possessed a lucidity Nathan had not witnessed in months. "Hey, Mom," he spoke gently. She turned toward him, eyes locking with his, and then a soft smile appeared on her lips. "You're here," she whispered. "And I'm still here." Nathan laughed on a breath he didn't even know he was holding. "Yeah, you made it through." Her eyes wandered past him toward the woman standing still in the doorway. Elena. Elena moved forward, her usual scrubs on, hair tied loosely back, strands of it falling about her face. Her steps were gentle. She was recovering too, but solid. Irene put out a weak arm. Elena clasped it. "My girl," Irene breathed. "My stupid, foolish, wonderful girl." Elena smiled softly, tears in her eyes. "I'm just glad you're all right. You saved my life," Irene exclaimed. Then, glancing over at Nathan, she smiled and added, "And his too, although he's too proud to admit it." Nathan rolled his eyes with a gentle smile, but his heart expanded. Later that afternoon, he invited Alina and Sophie to join him in the hospital playroom for children. A bright little room filled with creative activities, supplies, teddy bears, and peaceful pockets of happiness hidden away from all the machines and medication. Sophie ran ahead in her pink dress, her green backpack bobbing with every step. Nathan was already inside. Elena hesitated in the doorway, a little lost. "You sure this is where you wanted to meet?" He nodded. "This room feels right." She stepped in as Sophie dashed to a corner to select a stuffed bunny. Nathan dipped into his coat pocket and produced something wrapped in a small napkin. "I was thinking," he said, "about the moment everything changed for me." He unwrapped it. Half a chocolate chip cookie. Elena gazed. "This isn't the original," he laughed. "But I never forgot it." She arched one brow, a small smile on her face. "Sophie's cookie," he nodded. "That night, that flight, I was tired. I was spent, really. I believed I had nothing left to offer anyone. And this little girl with crumbs on her cheeks came along and gave me a crumpled cookie, like it was the greatest gift in the world." He breathed in, his voice calm. "And then she gave me you." Elena wiped away tears. Nathan went down on one knee, holding up the cookie. "I don't have a ring yet," he confessed. "But I have this, a promise, a start. Elena Brooks, will you create something messy, real, and beautiful with me? Will you marry me?" Elena put her hand over her mouth, laughing through her tears. "With a cookie," he smiled. "It worked the first time." Sophie applauded across the room, then came bounding over and wrapped her arms around Nathan. "Now you're not tired anymore, huh?" she squealed. Nathan held her close, his voice choked with emotion as he whispered in her ear, "No, sweetheart. You woke me up." Elena knelt next to them, and the three of them remained there in a room packed with little chairs and gleaming toys, surrounded by memories of heart-touch and healing. What was a serendipitous encounter at 30,000 had led to them being here today, and it all began with a cookie. The late afternoon sun lit the backyard a golden color. Leaves in amber and rust colors floated from the maple trees that fenced the small white house in the Boston suburbs. Laughter was heard from the garden, where balloons bounced on the wind. A picnic table decked in pink paper was littered with homemade adornments, sketches of cats, stars, and a large crayon drawing. Number 4, Sophie's 4th birthday. She ran through the lawn in her trademark pink dress, green pack bouncing behind her, now loaded with coloring books and plastic creatures. Her cheeks flushed with happiness, a tiara askew on her head. She giggled beneath streamers, waving a ribbon wand like a parade marshal. By the porch, Elena set down a tray of cupcakes. Her blonde hair was pulled back into a loose braid, soft curls gracing her face. She seemed brighter, less worn, more vibrant. Wearing a white blouse and jeans, a stethoscope in her breast pocket, She was close to completing her medical degree, a lost dream now at hand. Nathan emerged with a present wrapped in sparkly pink paper. Sophie's choice, of course, in a blue sweater, sleeves rolled up. He appeared more relaxed than anyone could recall. He glanced over at Alina for a moment, smiling. Inside, Irene Hale assisted Sophie in frosting cupcakes, her formerly pale face now aglow with color, her movement steady. "Not too much, darling," Irene cautioned, observing Sophie spread icing copiously. "But perhaps a bit more." Sophie smiled. "It's my birthday. We're allowed to bend the rules, aren't we?" "Absolutely," Irene winked. As the sun set low, the small circle sat around a cake decorated with 4 flickering candles. They sang. Sophie squeezed her eyes tight, made a wish, and blew them out in a happy whoosh. Nathan leaned forward. "What did you wish for?" Sophie smiled. "Cake for breakfast tomorrow." He chuckled. Foolish thinking. Later, when twilight had fallen and guests were departing, Nathan and Elena sat on the back porch watching Sophie run around with a lighted jar, catching fireflies. "I still can't get over this as our life," Elena whispered. He nodded. "I know." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "We came close to missing it." "But we didn't," he said, putting his arm around her. They sat silently observing. Then, as if a memory brought to life, Sophie ran along the lawn, green backpack bobbing, pink dress fluttering in the breeze. She turned, waved, and yelled, "Come on, slowpokes." Nathan smiled. That little girl who gave him half a cookie on 30 Zalozan feet had given him something greater, a reason to live once more, to love once more, to return home. And that's how a brief moment in an airplane shifted 3 lives for good. If this story has moved your heart, do not forget to subscribe to Soul Stirring Stories and hit the hype button to support more stories that heal and inspire. We present you with emotional, heartwarming stories that remind us about the strength of love, compassion, and do-overs. Thanks for being here. Until next time, be hopeful and never underestimate the impact of one act of kindness. Soul Stirring Stories, stories that touch your soul.